Here's a question for you. What do a sad tuna sandwich as the only kosher food option next to a ritzy spread, an active freight elevator as the only accessible entrance into a fine building, and online-only poster sessions for hybrid conferences, what do these three things have in common? They're accommodations that are far worse than the mainstream experience that everybody else has, and disadvantage specific groups. Underline.io still hasn't loaded. Now, I'm making this in reaction to my experience with EMNLP 2021, but I want to make it clear that I'm not criticizing EMNLP. Pulling off any in-person conference in 2021 is a tour de force. And doing a hybrid conference for the first time is impossible to get right. Plus, people are anxious to get back to in-person meetings. And there's an economic incentive to make sure that the people there, and paying quite a bit of money to be there, are satisfied. We're still not out of the 2020 Michigas, and we should keep our expectations low. Particularly if you're filling out course evaluations for CMNSC 470 at the University of Maryland this fall semester. All that being said, I felt disconnected from the happy people on the beach in the Dominican Republic. While I could watch the live stream, I felt shut out of the serendipitous encounters with people in the Dominican Republic. I did run into people at the poster sessions, which was great, but the people I ran into were everywhere except in Punta Cana. I never ran into anyone physically at EMNLP. In other words, my experience is of a mediocre online conference that just happens to take place at the same time as an in-person conference and has the same papers listed in its proceedings. In other words, separate but equal, which, as Brown versus Board of Education will tell you, isn't a good system. Why not? If those who are online and in person were selected randomly each year, this wouldn't necessarily be a problem. But those with fewer obligations and more resources are likely to attend in person. And those with more obligations and fewer resources are likely to attend virtually. And that's where the problem lies. If you're in the red group and want a job or a promotion letter from somebody in the green group, the community is doing a disservice to itself by keeping them segregated. And we force people to expand their carbon footprint to be visible or forge new collaborations if we don't give them an option to ever do this virtually. So how do we do this better in the future when there isn't a once-in-a-century global event making life difficult? How do you make a hybrid conference actually a combination of the two venues, online and offline? Here is my modest proposal. First, encourage interaction. Poster sessions are better than talks for interactions. Some people would say just overall better. Thus, schedule poster sessions for maximal participation. For the online group, make it so that it's in the waking hours of most of the world's population. Sorry, as usual, Hawaii. For the in-person group, don't put it next to attractive options like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Instead, the poster session, the opportunity for interaction, should be the focus of the day. You can put the keynotes and other less interactive elements of the program outside of this prime time. It also needs to be easy and convenient for on-site participants to interact with virtual participants. Think carefully about sound design and poster session layouts so that you can have setups where virtual participants and on-site participants can form ad hoc conversational circles. If you use something like GatherTown, match the layout of the online world and the in-person world. That way, a virtual participant can say to an in-person participant, hey, let's go over to that poster across the way. I want to hear your thoughts about it. And I think the only way that we can make this happen is to embrace asynchronous components for some parts of what a conference did in the pre-2020 world. One-way transmittal of information doesn't have to be done live. My group invested quite a bit of time making good pre-recorded videos that people could enjoy with good sound, good audio, and I hope good content, only to be told that we had to present the same darn presentation live. Do people really like Zoom presentations all that much? I teach my classes with a flipped classroom format. I record the lectures, students watch ahead of time, and they are expected to walk into the room ready to discuss the subject of the day. The same thing can be true of a conference. Your homework is to watch the videos or read the paper asynchronously and walk up to a poster ready to ask questions. And this could even be fun in person, provide informal watch party rooms. People can read papers together. This can be an additional aspect of the social aspect of an in-person conference. I'm not so delusional as to believe that online and in-person can be the same. They can't, but they can be both good and useful. I think we're very close to having that. But where we're falling short is making sure that the two of them can effectively interact with each other. And there's good reason to. Global equity, fighting climate change, supporting families. So let's actually try. Let's get it right before we fall back into old habits and shut out the people who aren't able to travel to exotic island locales every couple of months. If we simply accept, that's how it is, we give up on what could be a really great opportunity to do something good both for our community and for the world.